I know I personally, I'm not too happy about it. I like cleaning the roster of all the Almeida guys, but I don't really think it's too fair for the younger guys. I think we lost Eric Calvillo, another one that possibly a Tectonic Takes favorite because he was our first interview, but Tommy Williamson as well. We wasted, I guess, a first round pick on this guy when our first round picks are usually good, right? We usually get guys like Jackson Yule, Tanner Beeson, things that we go ahead and we use. Jamon, I think you're on mute if you want to go ahead and talk, but uh, yeah, Jamon, what are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
I think there's obviously some surprises in there, right? And I think particularly to your point of the young guys, when you know that there's a reserve league that's going to be formed, and by the way, this is no secret anymore. I think for a while, there was, while some of us like the Athletic, and we've been talking about it, on the Aftershock for a bit, and talked to Jesse Fiorelli even, last preseason, about it a bit and why he formed the U23 team and had them join in preseason. It was all kind of leading toward we needed this place to develop players, and we needed a place for the young players to get playing time. And, this was an exciting part of the initiative. And I don't think that Chris Leach doesn't believe in, the U23 initiative or whatever it'll end up being if it's more of a reserve league, for players on the lower end of the rosters. But and we don't know yet what those rosters are going to look like. Is that just another extension onto the supplemental? Is it its own completely separate roster? How are players going to move between the rosters and things like that? But it does seem a bit curious when you've got young guys like Jacob Akanyaridge and Eric Javillo and Tommy as well, that you would think you would want guys like that to be potentially available on this roster. Now, we also have heard that in some cases there may be some restructured deals, and I think Paul Marie is one that is likely to come back on a restructured deal. Is that a lower deal because he's only $90K, right? Or is it hey, Paul Marie actually had a really good season. We want to actually compensate him to the level that we think he's going to be for the team going forward. Maybe he'll get a better salary. We don't really know what restructuring in this case means, right?
Right.
So we can only kind of speculate. And to me, like, those are some of the really interesting part of this. I think it was a foregone conclusion that many of Almeida's guys were not going to be brought back. And I felt like that was never really a question mark. But there are some surprises in the supplemental roster for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. The surprises kind of came, I want to say, kind of like out of left field, right? The younger guys, you would expect them. I mean, I would say our loanees did pretty well abroad. I mean, not abroad, but in USL last year. So it does come to me as a surprise that Eric Javillo, just coming off of a USL win and a game that he played in and played well, and then he's starting to get El Salvador looks. It just seems a little odd that Eric Calvillo isn't going to be on this roster anymore, and relatively cheaper deals too. But maybe they're making room for something. I have no idea because it seems like with that new U23 team or the reserve team, it seems like some of these guys could at least be on that roster. I know Jacob is a guy who could probably be on the reserve side roster, and I know some of the fans are saying in the Tectonic Takes Discord that he went to a high school nearby and would do both at the same time. He would go to high school and play, professional soccer. So the kid had potential, but just seems really odd that some of the younger guys got cut. And Tommy Williamson, I want to talk a little bit about too, because that guy played very well. I mean, he played very well for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And something that goes a little unnoticed is that team actually didn't get to play in their playoff game because of a COVID problem. Because I believe some of their team members had a party, so they actually had to forfeit their game in the playoffs. So just all around unfortunate for our last year's first round pick. And I just have to say, why are we wasting a first round pick if Matthias doesn't? I mean, if Chris Leach and Matthias don't see anything in him for next year, so it just seems a little bit of a question mark for me. Ivan, if you can go ahead and see, I'm going to invite you to speak. Let me see if that can help you. Jamon, I know you're pretty confident with these Twitter Spaces. Do you know how to explain? If you could possibly explain to Ivan how to accept the co-host?
It's a good question. I think I just get a pop up on my phone,
Yeah,
on my iPhone, and just accept it. So
no
I'm
worries.
not sure. Not sure I can. I've been on these I think 4 or 5 times, but I'm never hosting them myself. So yeah, I'm
No
not quite
worries,
sure.
no worries. And then I see Carlos Yustis in here. If Carlos, if you want to give kind of an opinion about the roster moves, I know you probably have a couple of opinions. If you want to just quickly hop in, let's see if you can.
I'm here. It just
Hey,
cut off a bit since
Hey,
you were
Carlos.
adding me on that process in between. It cut off the whole question. Hey, Jay, how are you guys?
hey.
Carlos and I are debating the effects of MLS post game configurations this morning. If anyone wants to catch that thread, we had a nice little back and forth about that as well.
Yeah, the two-leg playoffs compared to the one-leg playoffs. I mean, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes if you have a new project, that always happens, right? Whenever you have somebody else that comes new, it's always gonna be, there's gonna be, most of the time when you have a new person in charge, they're gonna clean house one way or another.
Right.
And I feel a little bit of that is what we saw with this. Also, the amount of money that was allocated for salaries in a lot of those players is also one of the main reasons why that had to be done. And then we'll see. Everything comes down to what the restructure is going to be. Because if you're going to let go of pieces that, more or less, were responding. I mean, not all of them, but some of them. When you see so many names in there, it all depends. Everything's going to be hindsight. Because if they come with a better project and they bring all these players that are actually going to work out and feel in the system, and they end up having a playoff run and a deep playoff run, we're not going to remember that they got rid of Calvillo or some of these younger guys. But if they don't, that's the first thing we're going to talk about, right? So to me, that's the main core, issue. Like, you have to see it now. When you see it now, we all have ideas. Like, on our tables, it's really easy to know what's going to happen, or like imagine how things should happen. But then on the reality, we will have to wait to see what's the moves ahead of this to compensate for what the decisions are.
Yeah, and Carlos, I know kind of you know a lot more of the Mexican media compared to me or Jamin. What's kind of the rumblings about trophies? I know maybe a lot of the fans here don't know what his situation was in Mexico, but do you have any insight on that?
Well, Chavez, as everybody knows, he extended his contract. Well, he's not his contract. He extended his loan for 6 more months. Chivas does want Chofis to stay with the team. That's a move that Chivas wants to make it happen. Chivas is not interested in retaining the player by any reason. So it all comes down if they can negotiate a good price for him. Because I think the asking price, I don't know if the Quakes are comfortable with, and those are the conversations that are going back and forth. And there's also the fact that I feel the extension of the loan comes down to the Quakes saying, well, he did really well. Let me see if he can keep up that same level of production, and then I make sure I can put that money in there.
Yeah.
Because if for whatever reason these next 6 months he doesn't show up the way he's been showing, then there'll be a little bit of like, did I really want him? Should we keep him? But I think that's where that is. But I mean, I think Chuff is really happy here. I'm actually, this is an exclusive. I'm actually talking to him tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have that interview on Telemundo on Sunday. So we'll talk about what this means to him, why do he want to stay. So a lot of those answers I actually will get them tomorrow.
Hey, Carlos, I have a question for you. One of the points of a little bit confusion, and I couldn't even get a clarification, from the Quakes on this because PR, I don't think even knew the answer. Do you happen to know, does his contract with Chivas end after the 6 months? And what does that mean for the Quakes' ability to sign him beyond that? Do they still have to, if his contract is ending, then it seems like they would basically be able to pick him up on a free transfer and make him an offer for a contract. But if Chivas somehow still holds his rights, then of course the Quakes would have to negotiate, a transfer fee, potentially for him. So do you know the answer to that question?
I know his contract is definitely up after this summer. So yes, there's also a chance obviously Chivas will not want to lose that money if they can, right? Because that'll be a big waste for them. So they're trying to convince the Quakes to put that into place before that happens. But yes, he could go on a free transfer in the summer, and then that will mean that the Quakes can extend an offer for that contract up front without having to pay any money to Chivas. So there's also that decision.
But then, what would be the incentive to the Quakes to do that business with Chivas if they could just wait 6 months and do it directly with the player, right?
It all depends on how they can negotiate the contract, because the difference is if you negotiate the contract directly with the player once he's a free transfer, yes, it is a free transfer, but you still need to pay some rights to the Mexican league. Like, free transfers are not free.
Oh yeah, no,
anywhere in the world. Sense. So you will still need to pay involved, and there will be higher wages, because that's how the player justifies letting himself go free. So that you have to enter a contract with higher wages than the one you can negotiate with the team. So it not necessarily balance itself out, but usually teams do that in good faith. Like, by me giving you money, there's most likely I can look at another Chivas player and you can give it to me and we can negotiate in better terms than if you just, I take it for free. So that's more or less where that.
So it would be like, hey, let's maintain a good relationship here with Chivas that we've already built. We may have good business we want to do in the future, and so let's just all stay in good graces with each other.
Yeah, that is correct. Mm-hmm.
And I would assume so, since this is one of the biggest Mexican teams that we want to keep a good relationship with, especially since, we've gotten players from them before. So I would say maybe let's hope for a transfer fee, but let's understand that we have to pay a little bit of it as well coming up. I finally have Ivan here. Ivan, I wanted to get your quick. Ivan, if you guys don't know, is my co-host on Tectonic Takes, and I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on the roster moves that came out yesterday. Ivan, you there?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Ivan, hello? I think you're cutting out. So, maybe it's better. Oh, there you go.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. So my initial thoughts was panic, but that's because my math was wrong. I thought we were down to 15 roster members, but then I forgot to add 3 and 2 from the goalkeepers and forwards. So we're down to 20 roster members at this time. So with the extended bench, that'd be enough to just fill out that bench of 9 along with the starting 11. My main confusion, though, is so we have 4 players that 2 are still on the roster, 2 no longer are on the roster that were on loan at USL this season. And I feel like the ones with more impressive seasons, Calvillo and Williamson, were let go in lieu of Casey Walls, who did get a lot of minutes at Austin Bold, and then Gilbert Fuentes, who was disappeared for a large stretch of that season. So that was an interesting decisions, I believe.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially since they had options, so it might have been a little easier to get rid of the Cavillo and Tommy Williamson. But I have no doubt in my mind that these players are gonna get picked up either by USL teams or in this next upcoming re-entry draft that the MLS does in the upcoming month. Maybe we're gonna see Tommy Williamson go to another team in the MLS, and maybe the same goes for Cavillo. I can see Cavillo easily in like a Houston Dynamo or even the FC Dallas type of team where they need a lot of players to come in. But no, I feel a little bad for them on a personal side because they balled out in USL, right? So what does that show to the rest of the guys there that are younger? Hey, if we're gonna send you down to USL, even if you do as well as you possibly can, which some would say Cavillo and Williamson did, there's no place for them in the team next year. So it's a little scary if you're a younger player on that team. I want to just go ahead and ask, what are the biggest needs that the Quakes have now with these roster moves? Let's start with Jamon. Jamon, what do you think the Quakes need to do in this offseason before they get, starting to play?
For me, the biggest hole has been right back. And it's been the same story for the last 2 years. Obviously, they would have loved to have gotten Miguel Ayun last offseason. I think there was a lot riding on that happening, and then it didn't happen. And I think it probably affected the trajectory of the season, quite a bit, along with obviously the Jeremy Ebobisse move happening, and then him getting injured. I think there are like, if you look at like two big events that really kind of impacted the way the season turned out, you certainly can look at those two events. And so that hole still exists. I don't think it necessarily needs to be filled with a DP. In fact, I think that Vancouver didn't make the best move there in putting a DP into that spot before. So I wouldn't advise the Quakes to do that here. But I would like to see a TAM level player, someone with like, Nathan's caliber on the defensive side. This team needs to stop leaking goals, and they need to stop leaking goals immediately. And so to me, it comes down to bringing in someone of quality at the left back. Question mark, I think, is Marcos Lopez going to remain with this team? Obviously, we've heard rumors out there. So If you lose Marcos Lopez, now you also have to do the same at the left back position. To me, and particularly while we're waiting for what's going on with Paul Marie, but I wouldn't consider Paul Marie an everyday starter regardless. I think he's fine as a second option in either of those spots. But they really do need to go out and get a right back, if nothing else, to solidify this defense, give themselves a little bit better cushion, and then be able to go in and do whatever else they feel they need to in the attack, whether that's to bring in a 10 to hedge in case Shofis doesn't stay. That's where I would like a DP player. I could see a DP, winger on the left side particularly as well. The problem with that is you're going to rob from Benji and Cade minutes in order to be able to do that if you're starting Abobasi and Espinoza. So there's some really interesting questions here. It'll be fascinating to see what Leach does. But I have to believe with these moves he's got a plan. And I'm really intrigued to see how all this turns out.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see if Leach goes the Colorado way, with the MLS veterans, or maybe grabs a couple of talented players in this MLS draft, re-entry draft. Because looking at a lot of the teams, a lot of quality got their options declined this year. And I'm not completely sure why. It just seems like maybe MLS is, maybe still suffering a little bit from coronavirus or from COVID, like the business side of things, and maybe the contracts are a bit inflated. But a lot of quality, like Nico Benezet, to name one from Seattle, Kellen Rowe from Seattle, and then Ayo Akinola from Toronto. So there's definitely a lot of quality that got declined. And I know a lot of people here know this name and they don't like it, but Jonathan Dos Santos, I'm sorry, got declined as well for the LA Galaxy. And the Galaxy's actually looking to trade Sebastian Lletget. So maybe that's a guy that we get to see come home. But Carlos, what do you expect from this team in this offseason, and what do you want to see from the team? If you want to go ahead and give your opinion.
I mean, what I want to see, I guess, like what everybody has said before, there has to be some investment to make a competitive roster. Right. But with that, because I feel like one of the things that the Quakes had and they showed was that they could be competitive with their starting lineup. The problem was that once you start piling up minutes on that lineup, you start losing that depth because the guy behind the starter was way far from that. So for me to think that they were going to invest in somebody like Jonathan Dos Santos, I don't think is realistic. There will have to be someone in the middle of the line so they can get somebody who can play that position and then somebody else. And that's where it's going to start getting a little confusing or a little complicated. For example, like think about it. You right now, you actually, stroke gold with Ivanovic if he can keep up with that. But I would still want to have one more striker just so you can have that rotation. What Jamon said, it's totally true. I think the biggest gap they have it's at the right back, and it all depends where Marcos Lopez stays or not. They still need to get another backup goalie. I mean, they have Emi Ochoa, but that kid's 15 years old, so you can't be behind Marcikowski. So there's going to be a lot of those pieces, especially, and I feel like on that re-entry draft, they're going to go find it, and that's where Lich work and whoever the scouting team is going to come really handy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Seeing Emi Ochoa possibly get some caps in for the senior team already is a little scary, right? Having a 15-year-old kid think about homecoming, and then as well as blocking shots from Rui Diaz. So yeah, that's definitely a spot that they do need to fill, and it's a glaring hole. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that we may see Paul Marie come back on a on a bigger deal possibly. But another piece of news that came out today was that if you're a season ticket holder for the San Jose Earthquakes, you're going to get a Shea Salinas bobblehead. So, it's kind of nice to see Shea Salinas get his own little farewell tour in San Jose. So I'm excited for all you guys that's going to get that. Ivan, what do you think of the bobblehead, or what do you think about the roster moves, and are you excited for this next upcoming year?
So I'll start with my ideas for what the team needs are, and I agree with Jamon that if they can keep Marcos Lopez, whether it be for half a season or all of 2022, a back line of Marcos Lopez, Tanner Beeson, Nathan, and a quality right back wouldn't be a bad back line at all. So that is definitely a priority for me. I also think they need another creative player. I think whether it be a winger or number 10, if nothing else, for an insurance policy in case that they cannot re-sign trophies in the summer. But even then, like, you could potentially bring someone else in, even if trophies is intended to stay, because I think they need more competition in that role. I think we need to see what Bovasi can bring to the table in 2022. We need to see what Cowell and Kikanovic, what they look like next year. We want to give them every opportunity to continue to grow and develop. At the same time, we've been growing and developing player, and we've been kind of in a circle for the last decade or so. So if we want to make that next step up to being a more consistent presence in the playoffs in this next few seasons, then that might be the next logical move. And I love the Shea Salinas bobblehead idea. I think Shea Salinas definitely deserves his flowers and his credit for all the work he has put in. It's going to be weird to see Salinas play with not Wando, but he's going to step up and he's going to be the leader that we know he can be.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we're going to be able to see, Shea Salinas retire or maybe not be with the Quakes anymore, right after Wondolowski. So we get a quick 1-2 punch the way they would have probably wanted it, right? An assist from Shea Salinas to a Wando retirement. But it's definitely something that we all saw coming, and it's nice that at least we get to, send off Shea Salinas the right way with this bobblehead. At least we can do that. But looking forward, I know Jamon has the aftershock coming up later, and Carlos has a nice piece coming up with Chofis Lopez on Telemundo. So if you guys can, please go ahead and support these guys, as well as our Benji Kikanovic interview will come out probably today or tomorrow. Ted Ramey actually has a Benji Kikanovic interview on his podcast, The Soccer Hours. So there's a whole bunch of Quakes content coming out. So please go ahead and listen to all of our stuff for the Quakes. And I want to end this space. Thank you, all you guys, for going ahead and listening to us. But I'm going to ask all the guys one last question. What do you expect from the team this year? And what are you most excited for as a fan or as an analyst? Anything that you want to talk about of the Quakes? We'll start with Jamon. Jamon, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm most excited for what Chris Leach is going to do, with these moves by creating this much cap space and creating this much, roster space. And just, you can tell everything he has done so far seems to have a plan to it. Now, we may not see that plan right now. It may seem disappointing to see young players off the roster, but I don't think these moves are made, out of spite or just because, whatever, a reason that we may think. I think there's a bigger plan here, and I'm just really excited to see how this comes together. And I'm also interested to see how he works with Matias Almeida going forward. And do we see a Matias Almeida that comes back with more energy, rejuvenated from family time? We understand he had a tough season without his dad. And so, can Almeida come back and really put his energy into this team, into this last year of his contract? And can we see, things get turned around? And I want to see this team make playoffs. I want to see this team with a positive goal differential for the first time in several years. It's been since 2015. So there's a good bit of work going on, and I'm just excited to see, how it all starts to play out over this offseason.
Yep, and I wanted to talk a little bit actually about MLS. Jim Curtin's rumored move from Philadelphia Union to Cincinnati FC really kind of brought it to attention to me, because I think either we're going all in with Almeida this year, and the roster space or the cap space that was opened up is really going to prove it. If Almeida can do what he can do in MLS, because to me it seems like, hey, if a guy like Jim Curtin, I know he's very decorated, can get some offers from a team like Cincinnati, I feel like Almeida must have gotten a call from the teams that are still looking for position or for a coach, like LAFC, for example. So I think the Quakes are all in on this Almeida, and I think this is going to be Almeida 2.0. So I'm excited to see Chris Leach work alongside Almeida to see what they can brew up to make it so that this team is competitive this year, and they could definitely compete with in the playoffs. Because look at the playoffs now, right? The one seed's gone. New England, Seattle, they're both gone, and let's see who's going to win this whole thing. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be an exciting offseason for the Quakes. And if you're an MLS fan, Carlos, what are you most excited for this offseason, and what do you want to see from the team? Are you there?
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited to see a renewal. I mean, one of those things that, as sad as it is to see Chris Wondolowski go, I feel like it's a new era, regardless of what happens. So I'm excited to see how that can shape up, because you came from wonderful years to really terrible years to kind of like somewhere in the middle. So right now, technically, if you went from terrible to middle, the tendency is to go up. So hopefully that's what we're seeing. That's on the fandom side. Yeah. What I think is going to happen, and one of the things that I feel is great for the team, and this has been from the beginning, is the fact that Almeida's been all in on this team. Almeida loves being here. Like, to me, there's no doubt about it. We've talked to him about it. This year was particularly rough because of everything that happened with his family, and particularly, obviously, the death of his father, but also he was really close to losing his mother. And I think that really took a toll mentally on where he was and the, not necessarily the effort, but how he felt about soccer in general. So, as things heal a little bit, he will be able to do that. And I feel that there's the fact that you're bringing Wondo into the front office and having kind of be like a medium guy in between the front office, Matias, and the team. All those things are pointing in a direction where the team should glue together. And then it's just a matter of seeing where the decisions actually work or not. And like I said, it's like, I can't really judge Leach's decisions until they happen. Right. And until they show on the field, because I could be really excited about something and it might not work out. I might not be excited about something and work out. Like, unfortunately, that's the problem with that job. It's not until we can do it in hindsight that you can say, like, well, this was good, it was not. But I feel like at least it seems that the team is trying to make the moves in the right direction, and it's just also on the ownership to see how much they actually care for the team and to invest it and make it turn around. But it's going to be hard again because you're still feeling the effects of COVID.
Right. No, definitely. And we'll see how it all plays out. Guys, I think we might have a little special treat. I see some of the listeners in here, and I see Eric Wynalda in here. I would love to hear your thoughts on the roster moves that happened. I know maybe you can't say some things, but I would love to see if you wanted to come talk. I invited you to speak. So if you are interested in telling all the fans here what you think of the roster moves and what do you think of this Quakes team, please go ahead and accept and talk if you would like to. But I'm going to go to Ivan. Ivan, what do you think? Oh, actually, yeah, here we have Eric Wynalda. Sorry, Ivan. Let me go quickly to Eric, and then we'll go to Ivan. Eric, how's it going? I wanted to ask you, what do you think of this team? What do you think of the roster moves? What do you expect from the San Jose Earthquakes team next year? I think you just have to unmute your mic, and then we're all set. On the bottom left corner, there's a mic there. Just click that, and then you're ready to talk. But yeah, guys, again, I'm excited. I'm completely excited for this team. I feel like we get to see another season of the guys who stayed. I mean, at least Remedi, gel with Yudson and Yule. So I'm curious how that kind of plays out. I know there's a couple of rumors that on the Tectonic Takes Discord that we were talking about. One of the fans saw Christian Espinoza post an NYCFC jersey, but it may just be that he has a player on a friend on the team. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Welcome to our space.
Hey guys, just listening in. Interesting, always to hear your guys' perspective on what's going on. So I'm always curious because I still care quite a great deal about the club. So I wasn't really planning on commenting, but
no worries. Yeah, no worries. If you wanted to say anything about your excitement next year or as a fan, anything you would like to say?
Well, I mean, I can tell you this. I won't expound on it too much, but my Words with Friends buddy, Chris Wondolowski, and I talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
But he is to kind of echo, what some of you have already said about Chris's inclusion in this. I think that is such a phenomenal move for the organization to immediately embrace what he is and what he stands for. To have him around, he's such a tremendous leader, but not just because of the goal scoring accolades, but really just the person that he is. I thought that was such a smart move by Chris. That's a really good move in the right direction, and I think that also helps some of the will be some of the new players coming in, and the players that already are familiar with the club.
Yeah.
To not have, especially with transition, I think that helps a great deal. But I share in your guys' disappointment with some of the stuff that as fans of the club you have to endure when there's just sometimes it looks like there's a lack of cohesion with the group, and the results were quite sporadic at times. And understanding Almeida's situation with his family, I understand that all too well. I lost my mother and my brother in the same.
Eric, you there? Hello? I think we may have lost Eric. Eric,
I'm back. Are you there?
Don't worry. Yeah, you were saying that you had a personal loss as well.
Yeah. So I mean, understanding how difficult that can be for being in a leadership position and trying to really bring the energy that's necessary to create the culture that you want to have in the club. I think my thoughts and prayers are with him, because that's tough. That's and you have to commend the guy for just kind of powering through that. And I'm sure he's had a lot of support, but it's not easy. It's not an easy task. So that kind of puts a I don't know, an asterisk next to this past year. But like many of you, I think really looking forward to see what Leachy can do. He's a good guy. He knows the club. He understands, a couple of things. I mean, it's managing up, managing down. I think he's a perfect guy for that role. And and he's the kind of guy that when he picks up the phone and he calls another GM or he calls another club, there's an immediate response, because there's a lot of respect for him. So it's a huge component of that job. So I'm hoping that that once that, and I think someone had previously mentioned that it seems that there is a plan in place. I do believe there is too. I mean, Chris wouldn't do anything without a plan. That's just the way he is. Right. But I think I'm just as anxious to see the club get back on track as everybody else. So listen, I didn't want to jump in on your guys' party.
No.
That wasn't my intention.
I'm honored. I saw Eric Wynalda and I was like, oh, let's get him to talk. Here we go.
It's good to hear from you guys. I'll let you get back to it, but thank you. I'm just like everybody else, man. I'm hoping that things can get better. See that see the Quakes above that red line. It's been a while with the playoffs. So and we saw what happened in the playoffs this year. I mean, it really is a bizarre turn of events, and it's just a matter of getting to the finish line and then being informed when you get there. And I think the Quakes are fully capable of that next year.
Yeah, and I know you're pretty close to Chris Wondolowski, Eric. Did he tell you anything about talking about on Sirius XM or how he's doing so far?
I've been sworn to secrecy, man. I don't want to get the guy in trouble. I mean, it's one of those things where we I've made it very clear to him that I'm over the years when I was working as a commentator, I've just been a fan of the way he goes about his business. And he's no different than some of these other guys. I mean, even Jimmy Curtin, you just mentioned a minute ago. I talked to Jimmy about once a month, twice a month. And it's always trying to help out with ideas and how do you navigate through some of these situations. I would be very surprised to see him leave. I think he's a Philly boy through and through. We were teammates in Chicago, and I don't know about that that idea to go to Cincinnati, whether the offer's really real or not, or that could be a bunch of agents just trying to play with our emotions. Who knows? But
right.
I think when it comes to Chris, this is a great new chapter in his life. And what you guys need to realize is sometimes when a professional player retires, it's a strange time, man. If you don't have, I got lucky because I went straight into television, but a lot of friends, a lot of guys that weren't, necessarily sure about their future. It can be a very confusing time. So to have that kind of direction and to have the ability to just kind of step into a role that and an organization that's going to let him grow is really smart. It's smart of the Quakes to do it, and it's a great opportunity for Chris because he can grow into so many different things. Whether he goes corporate or he ends up on the sidelines, who knows? But
yeah,
he's the kind of guy that has enough heart and enough caring in him, not just about the people around him, but about the organization that he's going to be a tremendous asset in the future.
Well, I appreciate all your thoughts. Thank you, Eric. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. No, it's all good, guys. I'll go back to listening. All right.
You guys all do well. God bless you. Thank you. And all right. Well, so we have Ivan. Ivan, what do you expect from this team? I know that was a nice little break we had there, but let's go back to the roster moves. What do you want to see from this Quakes team, and what do you expect for next year?
So, since I know it looks like we're kind of getting to the end of the space, quick shameless plug. If you want to go to my pinned tweet to see my latest article covering the biggest motivators for the top remaining MLS Cup playoff teams, please do check that out when we're done here. But what my philosophy is with these roster moves, regardless of what league I'm following, is I want to give every player a shot, whether they're a big transfer, whether they're an under the radar transfer, a free transfer, whatever the case may be, because you never know which moves are going to pan out or which ones are going to surprise you, hopefully in a positive way. So I agree with Carlos Yustis that unfortunately hindsight is 2020 when it comes to analyzing roster decisions, and we won't know until the games start coming thick and fast whether they are working out or not. But I think it is a new era post Chris Wondolowski for the first time in 16 years for the San Jose Earthquakes. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And the main takeaway is that the celebration of the 2001 MLS Cup championship team and Chris Wondolowski's retirement at the end of the season cushioned the blow a little bit for another failure to make the playoffs. Even though they didn't squeak in 2020. So can this organization build on that goodwill, those good vibes, and get us off to a better start than we did last season, where we started off with a loss to Houston Dynamo. We won 3, and then it was bumpy from there on in. So if we can have more of a stable beginning, I know we start off with the New York Red Bulls, who are a playoff team this year, and they're probably going to undergo a bit of a metamorphosis in the offseason themselves. If we can start off strong with a strong performance, maybe a good result, and then build on that the next few games after that, then this will really feel like a new story rather than the same chapter in this frustrating story of so close but so far.
Yeah, no, and especially looking back at last season, thanks for bringing that up, Ivan, and thank you for your insight. The Quakes started off strong, but the guys looked like 1 or 2 steps, behind because we didn't have that true preseason. I remember we were down 0-2 to the Oakland Roots, and all of a sudden, Chofis and Cade Cowell start to, come alive. So I want to see a real preseason out of this Quakes team because that's how you start with your right foot forward because this team needs to be at fitness right at the jump. So it definitely, I look forward to seeing the preseason schedule. I look forward to seeing the start of the season. And guys, remember, this is a short off season. I mean, we're less than 90 days away from the start of the next MLS season. So it's going to come quick. I know this MLS season's going to end. The playoffs have been pretty exciting, but this next off season is going to be real quick. And we're all looking forward to it. And I'm going to let all the guys talk one last time to plug whatever they want to plug. But make sure, I know a lot of people here are listening, make sure to follow all of us. Jamon, follow Eric, follow Carlos, follow Ivan, and everybody else that covers Quakes Media, because we're all in this together, guys. And if we want to grow the club, and we want to grow, the fan base, we got to do it together. It doesn't, we got to support all of the media brands and everybody. But I want to thank all you guys for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. And Jamon, if you want to go ahead and plug whatever you want to plug for today, I know you have an aftershock coming after this, but you want to talk? Yeah.
Yeah, 7 p.m. tonight, myself, Alex Morgan. I mean, the guy who knows everything about the roster stuff. We all bow down to him on this stuff. Colin Etnier and Asher Cohn, who just put out a great article about Jackson Ewell's 2021 season. And a lot of us felt that he took a step back. And Asher said, well, wait a second, guys. There's some stuff that I think we need to pull out here and compare and talk about what they were asking Jackson to do compared to previous years, and really insightful stuff. So, check it out, quakesepicenter.com. That's available for everyone now. I will have probably my second article in my series about, can Leach turn the ship around? And we'll talk about the financial part now that we've got a better sense for what's going on the cap space. And that'll be coming out next week as well. And then just an article on American Soccer Analysis about the strength of home field advantage and how to win. Away teams need to win on the road. Hopefully the Quakes are reading that. Need to see some improvements on both the home and away side. But definitely check out the Aftershock tonight, 7 p.m. And we'll, of course, post a link on the Quakes Epicenter Twitter handle. So thank you. Right. Appreciate the time, Fabian. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Jamon. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate you giving us your insights and your time. Carlos, I know you have a Chofis Lopez interview coming tomorrow, and you've been busy with the 49ers. Maybe you're the good luck charm, but do you have anything you want to go ahead and plug for all this audience here?
No, I mean, everybody knows that even though I do this in English, we're the only real Spanish outlet that stays with the Quakes. We're the house in the Quakes in Spanish. We try to bring as much as we can for all the Spanish speakers, because there's quite a few in the Bay Area, and the same goes for the Niners. Like, that's how I cover the Niners in Spanish. So no, just everybody, thank you for listening. And yes, on Sunday I'm actually gonna run that piece of Chofis on Sunday. We'll see what he has to say about what he feels about staying and what he's looking forward for the next season, and hopefully we'll get more coverage and some other games also in Spanish for the next year.
Yeah, and Carlos, what time is the piece running? Do you know what time it's going to go up on Sunday?
Yes, it's 6 p.m. It's going to be our 6 p.m. newscast. It's around like 6:20 for the sports segment, and then I'll have a longer piece after it airs on digital, so you can follow it. I'll post it on my social media too, so it's easier.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you for your time. And I'm going to round this out with Ivan. Ivan, do you have anything to plug? I know you're my co-host. We are going to release a Benji Kikanovic interview in the day or two, so please keep an eye out for that. And Ivan, what do you want to go ahead and talk about? I know you want to plug probably what I want to plug, but I'll let you do it.
Yeah, so just once again, you can see my latest article in my pinned tweet. I talk about the Final Four clubs: Real Salt Lake, Portland Timbers, Philadelphia Union, and New York City. What are their main motivating factors? And just a bit of a preview for that. They all probably have the same thought right now. This is our opportunity. So one of those dreams are going to come true, but disappointment's going to mount for the three teams that inevitably do lose. So just seeing what the stakes are, and for many of us, we're all San Jose Earthquakes fans here. Maybe it's tougher for some of us to be invested in the playoffs right now, but I believe that MLS is a story with a beginning and an end, and the ending could potentially influence some of the possibilities for San Jose Earthquakes next season. We just don't know it yet. So definitely do check out my article, even if you don't feel like tuning into the playoffs. But you definitely should be watching the playoffs because it's absolute chaos.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Ivan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank all you guys for listening to us today. It was a pleasure. We had Jamon come on, we had Carlos Yustis and Ivan, and we even had Eric Wynalda stop by. So thank you guys so much. Keep going ahead and, supporting this Quakes team because they definitely in it in this time. And I want to thank all of you guys. Please feel free to follow myself, Fabian Renkel, Jamon Moore, Carlos Yustis, and Ivan Ornelas to help us grow. We appreciate that. And all I have to say is go Quakes. Take care, guys.
Go Quakes. Bye.